and I hear the first officer call out. And then the first officer jumps on the radio and he screams, "Holy shit, it's the goat man." And I mean, it's just like everything went quiet. And I could hear the ringing in my ears, and I could feel my heart race. And so I hit my light and I went flying up there.
I've been told by some older people, elders, that you grab them and you hold them and you don't own them, but you hold them there until daylight. If you can hold them or pull them into the light, it destroys anything they have, any kind of power or anything they were trying to do to you. It'll destroy them.
This guy was like bouncing, like, you know, like how you see people kind of getting ready to jig, you know how they kind of bounce? Yeah, he was like that way. He was just kind of bouncing, and he was just kind of going back and forth on one foot to the other. And he just kind of turned sideways, and he turned back over to the other way, and he took off. Holy shit, he jumped in Wanda.
This is Lodge Tales. I'm your host, Rod Williamson, and thanks again for joining us on another episode. If you are Native American and you'd like to come on the show to share your strange and paranormal experiences, please consider emailing us at lodgetales@gmail.com. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Lodge Tales, and I'm your host, Rod Williamson. This week I got my brother on for us, and we kind of go back and forth about that bucket woman incident up in Oregon, where, well, we really think it's a nun spirit, like a nun that was always bothering those little kids up there. And we kind of go back and forth about that. I let him tell his side, and we kind of, I don't know, basically just talk about it as both of us experience things there. Them more so than I guess I would say, because, I mean, I seen a few things, I mean, with that pentagram, I don't know, I mean, I was there to see the window slam and talk to my niece about it and everything, and it was pretty scary, but we talk about that. Then afterwards he goes into talking about our dad's house, you know, that spooky house in Browning there, that flood house. And so anyways, he tells a lot of stories about his experiences there. He talks about this when his wife was getting her feet tickled one night. Those are always creepy stories. And hearing people in their party. Another time he talks about when a toilet paper roll come flying out of the bathroom and hits one of his wife's cousins in the head. And there's also this man looking at him from the window after because he'd locked the house up and crawl out a window and leave the window open, no key to it. That's how he'd do it. His locks are kind of faulty at the time too. Well, anyways, that thing that was looking at him was from inside the house after he had already cleared it all out. They were already getting ready to leave, and yeah, it was looking at him from the inside. Then our sister-in-law was there, and she was staying with him. She's just a little girl at the time, and she went to go sleep in that. What we don't mention in there is that the old woman, where our sister-in-law went to go sleep, that was my grandma's room, where they're talking about. We don't mention that in there, but that was it. And also, I said during our podcast, our conversation, that I had the pictures up for that bucket woman house. I went back and looked, and I realized that I didn't put them up there just yet, that I meant to. I got them all saved and ready to get put on, but yeah, I'll go ahead and do that within the next few days as well. So we'll have those on there for you guys to look at. That bucket woman house is a crazy place. So If you haven't checked out the website yet, I encourage you all to go look at it. You can leave a voicemail there for us. Like if you have a short story you just want to get on, you can do that there, and leave a message or whatever saying, post as is or edit it down to get the names out. Whatever you want, you could do that there. Or you could just leave a message there, like type a story out, and I'll get it all the same. I could read that off on the show. Or preferably you could contact me and we'll set up an interview. You could come on and tell your stories in person. And again, the same rules apply. You can be as anonymous as you want. You don't have to say your name, or you don't have to say anybody else's name. It's just whatever, whatever you're comfortable sharing. We're interested in the stories, getting out there for everybody to hear. And again, thanks everybody for tuning in and being with us on this journey that we're on with these stories. So I wanted to apologize for these episodes coming out late. We're going to have My Brother is part 1 and part 2 for this month in November. Those will be our 2 episodes coming out. I'm kind of dealing with a little bit of a sickness going on. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I notice it. My wife's been kind of sick and trying to keep work going, and there's a lot of things kind of tied me up this month. Had my daughter come in from college, spend Thanksgiving with us, and been kind of straying from the podcast, not on purpose, just things coming up. So anyways, I'm catching back up and I'm getting this episode out tonight, and then tomorrow I'll edit part 2 of My Brothers. Also, we'll be getting what I wanted to do was release part 1 of My Brother, and then tomorrow release the patron-only episode with Wade Running Crane, and he talks about a shape-shifting Bigfoot in that one. And he also talks about some UFOs that they were experiencing at the same time this Bigfoot was chasing. There's some pretty good stories in there. And so I wanted to release that one tomorrow as a patron-only episode. And then probably the following day, get My Brother's part 2 out. And I'm also calling him tomorrow to finish recording the rest of his stories. He has more. And he might have a 4-part series on his as well. So we're going to get all those out. And then coming down the road, I've been meaning to get back with Angelo Bullplume, and I had one of my friends say, get him back on. I want to hear more of him, so I've been thinking about that. I mean, I've had him on my radar for a while now, and I think I'm finally going to pull a trigger and give him a call and set something up to see where we can continue with his and his wife's stories. That would be good. He tells a lot of good ones about Heart Butte. So yeah, expect that in the near future. And also, I finally talked my wife into coming on the podcast and sharing some of hers. She has some really good ones too. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. And thanks for being here, everyone. Alright, everybody, we got my brother Jim. He's going to tell us some stories. But before that, maybe little Jim, you could kind of talk a little about yourself. Kind of introduce yourself to everybody and just take it away with your stories.
Okay. Well, I'm Rod's little brother, Jim. Grew up on the res, Blackfeet res. Live in Bozeman now. Been here since 2005, so I've been here for quite a while. But yeah, just grew up on the reservation. I have a lot of stories of both places, both the reservation. Got some stories about Oregon when we used to live there. I got a lot of stories of here in Bozeman also, and just a bunch of random stuff. So, yeah, I don't know where shall I begin?
Let's start from the beginning.
Go into the beginning. Let's go with well, back in when I was in 4th grade, I went to a school up in Oregon. I was in elementary, I went to a Sunnyside Elementary in Salem, Oregon. And we used to live in these apartments. My brother, the one that owns the podcast here, he was in school at Chemawa, and I was living with my mom, and we lived in these apartments in Kaiser that was pretty run down, low down. So we was pretty happy to get out of there once my mom was able to find a place. And she found a place up in Salem that was a few miles away from where we currently stayed in Kaiser, and it was an actual house, and 2-story house. It was a little white house, kind of had to drive down this little alleyway to get to it. But yeah, we was stoked because we wanted to get the heck out of those apartments because they were pretty run down apartments. I hated living there, but we had a roof over our heads. So, but yeah, we got into the house, and I remember when we first pulled up there, I think you was in school. I think it was just me, Mom, and our stepdad Michael.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's who was with us. I can't remember, but we pulled up into the parking way there, and I was really happy because Mom was showing me that. It's like, check this out, little Jim, we got a house, and I was all happy. And oh shit, yeah, man, we could finally get a house, get the heck out of those ugly ass apartments. So we go in, and she was showing me around. When you walk into the house, you walk in, and there's like this little, I don't know if it's like a den or maybe like a dining area, I guess. Yeah, I kind of guess like a dining area, the first room you walk into when you walk in the front door. Dining area, then straight ahead of you, there was a door there that went into my mom's room. That was like the master bedroom. You turn to the left, there's a little small hallway, maybe about, the hallway was only 7-8 feet long or so, maybe not even that. And it went into the kitchen and into the living room, and there was a bathroom in that little hallway too. And across from the bathroom, there was stairs that went upstairs, and there was 2 rooms up there, one on each side to the left and right. And straight ahead on the stairs, there was a closet with a door that opened up. There's like a little walk-in closet there. But I remember going in there, and we was looking around, and we walked up to Mom was going to show us our room, me and your room. It's like, this is where you and Rod's going to stay. And that's when we had our cousins. Our cousin's mom wasn't doing too well. She was kind of off in the partying life. So my mom took our cousins as foster kids, and they were our foster brother and sisters for about a year or so, if I remember right. But yeah, they were with us, and there was 1, 2. There was 3 of them that came to live with us. 3 of my first cousins, and I remember we walked up in there. I can't recall if this was the first trip we went there or it was the second trip that my mom was showing my cousins also. But we walked into the room where me and Rod's room were, and the whole floor was painted black. And it was like a really shiny black paint. And in the middle of the paint, in the middle of the room, there was a red, looked like a compass. I don't know. It wasn't a compass, though. It had weird markings and stuff on it. It was all red. And it looked like a compass, or my mom said it looked almost like a devil worshiping thing. I don't know. But it scared the heck out of us when we first seen it. And we was like, we'll just either put a carpet over it, or we'll paint over it, or we'll do something. We'll get rid of it somehow. So that's what we ended up doing. We met a couple of Napiquans up there. We were gonna beat them up. Our Rod was gonna beat them up. Rod was gonna tune them up for my cousin, and they were messing with her. But somehow, some way, they end up becoming our friends. And they end up coming over to the house, and that's who my mom hired to paint over that floor. And they painted over it. And I remember when they painted over it that first time, they only put a coat over it, or maybe 2 coats, I don't know. But that thing came through the paint. Like, you could still see it. And I don't remember if they came back a second time and tried it. I think they might have. But I remember we couldn't fully get rid of that compass thing. It was always there. You never could get rid of it. So I think my mom just ended up throwing a rug over it, if I remember correctly. and we just lived. We got spooked like crazy in there. Well, the older kids never really got bothered. It was really the younger kids that got bothered in there. There was a woman in there that they used to see. They called her Bucket Woman.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you guys about it and everything, and me, you, and our older cousin that stayed with us. I remember talking to her about it too, and we were sitting there, and I remember we was asking each other, I wonder why they call her Bucket Woman, and they were saying that she has something on her head that she wears, and we started going through and thinking of what that could be, and a couple ideas popped in our heads. It could be those old nurses, those old school nurses, like back in the turn of the century days, like back in those days, those huge hats they used to wear, or maybe it's like an old nun, something like that. But yeah, she would raise hell with those littler kids. Like I said, my mom was a foster parent, and she didn't only take my first cousins, she took these other two smaller kids from the state, and they stayed with us too. And they were younger than all of us. They were the two youngest of all of us, and that's who Bucket Woman really messed with, was the younger kids. Seemed like she never really raised hell with the older ones. I don't know why, but I remember a couple of times I was asking those two foster kids that were from Oregon. I was asking them about what they seen and everything, and what it was, because one of the kids, he was the older one. His name was we'll just call him C. The other one was the younger one. We'll call him A. And C was sitting there, and he was telling us that A was the one that was talking to her, and C was just kind of standing back, like, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be talking to her," and getting kind of scared and all that. And then he said that they would. A said that she was magic or something, that she can make lights from her hand, something like that. That she was trying to teach A how to do it, or something like that. I really can't remember the full story on how that went, because it was so long ago. I was only in 4th grade. Here I am now, 41 years old, so it's that was a long time ago. But I remember asking him about it, and yeah, he was saying that she was magic, that she would let light come out of her hands. Like, I don't know if it was a flame, or if it was a ball, or what it was she would have on her hands, but they said that she would light up her hands. And that's just one of the stories about Bucket Woman. There's a couple others too. I remember we had these closets in our room. They weren't full walk-in closets. They were kind of like half closets, but they were really long. They were dang near the length of our room, but they weren't deep, and they weren't tall. You couldn't stand up in there. When you walked in the door there, you had to duck down and almost crawl. But you can go way the heck back there. It's a lot of room in there. And I remember my uncle Pooch, God rest his soul, he was up there one time. He got scared in there. I forget what he got scared of. I don't even remember. I think I came back from school or something, but I remember you told this story too, Rod, when you were talking about it, when Pooch got seen something in there, he wouldn't talk about it.
He just wouldn't.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know if I was there or if I remember coming back from school and you guys were all laughing at him or something, but I remember that day when you guys were telling me about that. Yeah, that house was something else, man. Just the land it was on, just how there was a huge tree in the back of there too, where me and my cousins, we made like a tree fort back there in that huge tree. I don't know, there was just something about that place that just didn't sit right. And I always boiled it down in my mind that, maybe Bucket Woman was, she probably wasn't stuck in that house. She was probably stuck on that land. Something from a long time ago.
Yeah, so I think it's something with that land, but that tree too. There's something up with that tree, man. I still to this day can't really, put my finger on it, but you know, because when Bobby Ann was looking out that window and we went up there to see what she was doing, and you know how that window slammed and she just looked at us really slow. She was staring up at that tree, man. You know, and I almost half wonder if that bucket woman was sitting in that tree.
That's what I think too, because that night when she got in trouble, I remember that she was getting into Christmas presents or something. I forget, but she got in trouble by her mom, and she ran upstairs. I think her mom sent her upstairs, or she ran upstairs. I forget how that happened, but
She
I
just
remember.
took off. Yeah.
Oh, she just took off running. Yeah. And I remember before that, Mom was telling me and you to go up there and close that window. Go up there and close that one's window before those bugs come in here. Like, all right. Remember we went in there and we both had our feet up. Remember we was holding onto that window and we was putting both of our weight on it, and we had our feet up and we was like dangling on that window and it wouldn't close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, we'll just leave it. So we just left it for our cousin to close, and she's just gonna have to deal with the bugs. And that's when Bobby Ann got in trouble and ran up there. And I remember when she ran up there. I don't know if it was Mom or Chas told you to go check on her, or told me, one of us, to go check on her.
Yeah, it was Chas.
We both teamed up and we went up there, and I was following you. I remember you was going first and he was walking up those stairs, and we got about halfway up, and then you kind of slowed me down. He was like, wait, and we start listening, and we kind of crept up to that top stair, and we was both sitting there levitating, trying to listen and see what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember peeking around that door. You peeked around it and I peeked around it, and we was sitting there looking at her. And then when I don't know if she even noticed us there or what, but like she slowly turned and like looked at us all spooky looking, like a scary movie.
Yeah.
Looked at us all spooky looking, and then that window just slammed shut behind her. Like, holy cow, man, that scared the hell out of me, man. I took off running. I remember you took off running too, and then you stopped about halfway down the stairs and was like, oh shit, my niece is up there. I'm just gonna go get her. And you ran back up there and grabbed her.
Well, remember Chas?
I wasn't going.
Remember Chas passed us on those stairs, and she was going up with Daniel, but I was going down, and I took Daniel. Remember, she went in there. Like, we wouldn't go in there. Yeah, we stood at the bottom of the stairs, and I was holding Daniel, and you were peeking around that corner way down there, down at the bottom of the stairs, and I was standing right in the middle of those stairs at the bottom, but, you know, on the floor, and looking up. And I remember thinking when I was holding Daniel, holy Christ, that Chas is brave, man. God damn. She doesn't even know what the hell we just seen, but she's just going right in there, boy. All she's seen is us panicking and hauling ass out of there, and get her go. I remember thinking, oh, gosh, I was as brave as her.
Yeah, a mother's love for their kids, man. They'll do anything for them.
Remember, she said, what's wrong, my girl? She went walking in there and brought her back down. But I remember going up those stairs when we were listening, because I wanted to kind of hear what else she was saying. But she was saying, yeah, my mom's mean. Can you just take me away from here? Yeah, just take me away. Oh.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember her saying, she was saying, bucket woman, can you just take me away from here?
Yeah.
And she was looking out that window and it was all dark.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow, that gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah, but you know, the way she said everything, because later on when it showed up and Daniel was, you know, he was just a baby. What was he, about, a year and a half old? Bobby Ann must have been about 3 or so. But I remember that night she said, yeah, Bucket Woman's magic. Because I was asking her, so what does she do? She can make lights come out, like you were saying, can make lights come out of her hands. They're like balls of light. Oh, really? Like, I was just listening to her, man, because, you know, she was so young that those kinds of things don't pop into a kid's head. Like the things she was saying, there's no way. Like, kids are so innocent. They don't, you know, their heads are filled with really childish things, not stuff like she was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing you got to realize is this was back in way back before we had internet.
Yeah.
So this was back way before we even had cell phones.
Yeah, this was what in, oh geez, about 92,
Yeah,
93,
somewhere around there.
somewhere in there. Yeah. But you know, I just so everybody knows, we've talked about this place, me and my brother, kind of quite a bit since it's happened, and we looked back and we looked for that place. We looked for that place. We could never find it on, Google Maps when that first, that came out finally. So we just couldn't find it. And man, I was stubborn. I just kept looking for it and looking for it. And I finally found it on there. So, oh, here it is. Check it out, man. I found it. We start looking at it. And man, that house looks the same. It's still white, and anyways, on the website, lodgetales.com, I got the stuff I found about it posted on there. You can see it for yourself, this old house. But
It
there's
is a spooky one.
there's something in there, and the people, what I'm curious about is the people that lived there after us. Geez, even before us. I would like to talk to them.
Yeah, see if they seen or heard anything.
Because, we never resolved that. We just moved.
Yeah, we
Normally
just
we,
left.
we try to do something about it, but we didn't there. We were too young. I mean, Mom had some of that medicine she was given, but she never really used it. So
Hmm.
only in times of really, really great need would she use it. So I mean, yeah, we never did anything about it. And for all I know, it's
Yeah,
still there.
yeah, I think it is. It's because that Google Maps gets updated quite often. I'm pretty sure it's a pretty recent photo of it.
No, I mean that spirit that messes with those kids in there. Pretty sure that
Oh
thing,
yeah,
for all I know, it's still in there.
yeah. I
And
remember too. When that same day when that first day when Mom brought me up there to go look at it. After we went and walked through it and everything, and she showed me where our room was going to be, our cousin's room, everything. We end up leaving, and you have to back out of there. And we was in that old, what kind of car was it? That great big boat she had. It was that brown boat, two-door boat. Oh,
yeah,
I forget what kind of car it was, but we was in that thing, and I was in the back. Michael was driving, she was passenger, and we backing out. Got onto the to that alleyway that we was in, and start driving away. And if you look at those pictures, if you posted the picture of that house on your website,
hmm
there's a window right there on the second floor. That window up on top that you see in that picture, that was me and Rod's room. That's the window that was in our bedroom. And I remember when we was leaving there, I remember looking back at the house because I was really happy. I was like, dang, we finally got a house, and I was really happy. And I remember looking up at that window and seeing somebody standing in there, and they had something like a weird thing on their head. I didn't put two and two together though, and I never did really think about it till maybe just a few years ago when we really start talking about it, I start putting two to two together and thinking, maybe I seen Bucket Woman too. Maybe she showed herself to me just that once, and I never did see her again though.
yeah. See, I never seen her. I just experienced those things and heard the kids talking about it. And Mom said that it would sound like those two foster kids were getting flopped around on their beds too sometimes. Said you could hear them like almost like whimpering or something, like they were scared, and she'd go check on them, and nothing, nothing would be wrong, so she would just go back to sleep.
Hmm. Yeah, that Bucket Woman really messed with the younger one. A A would always he would always come crying to Mom about stuff that he's seen, that he heard. And yeah, it would be good to get Mom on here if you can actually get her to record a video. Oh, I bet you she has a lot of good ones about that house.
Yeah, one of these days I'll try to get her on, but she's shame. She don't want.
Yeah,
Maybe I
she's old
can.
school.
Yeah, maybe I can. Hopefully soon get her to sit down with me, and might have to go to her house and bring all this equipment in there and just do it right there at her house. Or
Yeah.
she might talk to me on the phone. I mean, she goes to sleep pretty early, and I work early, so it's kind of a timing thing, and I don't know how I'd be able to, the logistical, I don't know, whatever the schedule's aligning for all that. I might just have to head up there and talk to her right there, but she even said that when she was bringing you guys in there for the first time that she seen that woman standing on the top of those stairs. Mom said she looked like a nun. So that's why, and plus when Bobby Ann was talking, oh yeah, I didn't finish talking about that, and she said she's magic. I says, yeah, and she said, well, Daniel don't like her, and I said, why is that? She said, he's scared of her. I said, oh, how come? She said, I don't know. So, oh, probably because when she came and she was showing us she was magic, I gave her a hug when she came in. I gave her a big hug, and I told Daniel, hug her. And he wouldn't do it. He's shaking his head no. Because he was scared. Come on, you don't have to be scared of nothing. Just hug her. And so he reluctantly went over and kind of put his hands on her and hugged her. And when he backed off, she said his hands are full of blood. And so I had to bring him downstairs to that bathroom, and I had to wash the blood off his hands because he was scared. Then we came back up. And when I remember asking her about it, and so, well, how does she look? She's got this thing on her head, it looks like a bucket, and she wears these long, kind of, well, I don't remember her exact words, but what she described was somebody in robes.
Yeah.
Like long, flowing, like a robe, not a dress, but like robes.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that's why I've always kind of thought she was a nun. And I mean, because I'd never seen her. I was witness to the Devil Star or whatever it was reappearing. I mean, I remember one day, heck, Mom and Pooch were up there painting that thing. I came home on a weekend, and I remember walking up there, and they were painting over, and like, God, we can't get this thing to go away. And they were really painting. They had black paint, and they were painting over it. And I remember watching it. I said, look, as soon as I put a layer on it, it just kind of comes back through. And I was thinking, well, why don't you just sand it down? That's what I was kind of thinking, because, we were doing stuff in wood shop, so I was kind of used to sanding and everything, and that's how I start thinking, but I never brought it up to sand it, but they were just trying to paint straight over it, and they never could. So you said that a couple guys come over and tried to paint it. Well, that means that it was like, they tried to paint over it like 3 times. I don't know any kind of paint that bleeds through after 3 layers, at least 3 layers of paint. You can pretty much cover up anything with 3, 4 layers.
even like a small little ridge on that thing, 4 layers of paint definitely levels it out. Should anyway. You shouldn't see that thing on the floor anymore after that much paint. It's weird. Very weird.
If I was to speculate on what the prehistory of that place was before we went there, I bet you anything, man, there was some people that were into that, what do they call, a cult? And I bet you anything they were doing that, they were raising hell with things like that, and I bet you they called that spirit into being, or, that's the other kind of theory I have on that. And aside from it being so old, it could have been there, but it could have just been, I guess, dormant, but I think they might have woke it up, whatever it was,
Yeah, somebody was doing something in there. I mean, that pentagram, that's what we can call it. That pentagram was not normal. It wasn't.
Mm-mm.
You can tell it had something with it. It had meaning. It had some type of dark meaning. That's just the way it looked. All the different symbols on there. I mean, I remember one time I was looking on the internet, and I think I might have found that exact thing. Didn't I show you it one time?
If you did, I don't remember it. Kind of vaguely, I remember something, but
yeah, vaguely. This was like years ago. I remember just thinking about that thing one night, and I just started Googling pictures of pentagrams, and I dang near think I might have found it. I'll have to look it up again, and I'll see if you remember it, and I'll bring it over to you one day.
All right.
But yeah, that house was something else up there. I was glad to move into it, and I was sure glad to leave it.
Man, I didn't have to stay there day after day, because I stayed in the dorms over at Chamawa, I didn't have to, but I'd come home, and then I quit coming home as much because I had whole life going on over there, whatever. But I'd come to Mom's house, and in the summers, we'd stay up there and raise hell, but I never did get bothered in there. And eventually I made a room out in that garage,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really stay in the house. The kids get older, they just kind of do their own thing, but it's kind of how that was. I always felt something was there, but I could never put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was a few times where everybody was gone. I don't know where they were at, where everybody was, but I remember staying there by myself about 5 times, handful of times, and go in that living room, watch TV, and just feel like I wasn't alone. I just keep looking around, like, geez, it feels like there's, I remember that happened more often than not when I was there by myself. I don't think I ever sat there alone with nobody at the whole house and felt like I was actually alone. It kind of felt like something was in there, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I know that feeling too. I got that same feeling when I'd come home. Mom and them wouldn't be there. They'd be downtown or something, and I'd come home from school and I'd turn on cartoons and just sit there and wait for them to get there. But yeah, I know that same feeling, like somebody's there with you, like they're sitting in that living room with you, or they're just standing in the kitchen, or they're somewhere near you in that house somewhere, and it's just like you're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was. Remember, when our dogs died at that place too. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, they were sick. They got sick from something. I remember what it was, but still, just animals dying there too. It just doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
There's something
just too much bad there. I mean, it just wasn't a good place, and in the end, it wasn't a good place. And yeah, I mean, it would really be cool to see if we can get a hold of somebody that lives there now or lived there prior before we did, and see if they have stories to tell.
Jeez, if I'm ever up that way, that'd be crazy to stop in there. I don't know if I got the guts to do that. I'm gonna follow you.
Yep.
But still, I'd like to just, out of curiosity, just knock on that door. Hey, we'd probably weird them out, huh? Hey, man, is there anything crazy happening in here? We used to live here years ago. See a big nun standing in here, messing at those kids. Get the hell out of here. I don't know how I'd approach that, but definitely it kind of, I guess, piques my interest. I'd like to know if people, got bothered there too. Pretty sure they would have, especially right after we left.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's really what I have for Oregon. Just that house. I really don't have much to say about Kaiser. Really never get bothered down there, staying with our auntie or staying in that other place that we stayed at, those Forest Green apartments. That's what it was.
Yeah, was this that place, that house?
Yeah, just that one house there is what we got bothered at.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, shoots from that point. That's when I ended up moving back home. Grandpa came up and picked me up. I came back home and stayed on the res and graduated from high school from there. So I was there from 6th grade all the way to 12th. And yeah, there's a lot of spooky stuff that happened there too. There's back in back in 99 was when I met my wife. Been together ever since. And when I first met her, we had a child in 04. And 04 we had one, and 02 we had one, 07 and 2012. But our first one in 02, she was we was staying in Heart Butte for a little while there, and staying with our in-laws, or with my in-laws, and it was just too tight in that house, so we wanted to move to a different place. And my dad actually let us stay in his place because it was just big 3-bedroom house, and he was staying with his sister, my auntie, and because it was winter time, and he being in that house all by himself and all that stuff. So we just went up and he started staying with my auntie up by the school. And he told me and my wife that we could go ahead and live in there for a while. We're like, all right, thanks, thank you, Dad. So we went ahead and moved in and start living there and stuff. And that first night we moved into that place, we had a bunch of boxes that we had out. Like, we were just moving in. We didn't have no furniture in there or anything like that. It was just a bunch of like boxes of dishes we had sitting in the kitchen, and some boxes of clothes sitting in the kitchen. All of the boxes were in the kitchen. We just kind of stacked them there, and it was already getting late, so we wanted to go to sleep, and we was going to continue it the next morning. And we go to lay down. We went into the dad's bedroom, that northeast bedroom, and we were sleeping in that bedroom. And we go to lay down, and when that heater kicks on in that house, it's really a loud heater. I mean, when it kicks on, it's really loud. Like, you could really hear it throughout the whole house. And then once it gets to fully heated, it'll start blowing air, but it's still loud, and it stays loud until it shuts totally off. And the heater kicked on, and when the heater kicked on, I was laying there, and my wife was sleeping already, and I just kind of closed my eyes. And the heater kicked on, and we were sitting there, and I heard one of those boxes. It sounded like a box on linoleum floor. You know, like if you took a box and just slid it across linoleum, how that sound would sound, you know, with the little rocks and stuff, you know, dirt underneath of it, how that would sound. And that's what I heard in that kitchen. It sounded like one of those boxes just got pushed or kicked or something all the way across that floor, and it hit that other side of the wall. Like, it was loud. You heard it just, and then it hit the other side, and boom, it hit the other side, and you heard some silverware falling. And I was like, oh, what the heck was that? So I got up and I went in there and turned all the lights on as I was going in. I was really spooked because it was all dark in there and everything. So I was turning all the lights on as I was walking in there. And turned on that kitchen light. Shit, everything was still the same way. Boxes were all the same. Nothing was moved. Everything was all the same. And I thought, what the hell's going on? You know, I was trying to put it together in my head, like, what the hell made that noise? But shit, I couldn't come up with a good excuse for it. So my wife got up too. We was all looking around and stuff. But yeah, couldn't come up with a good explanation for that one. And so we go and we lay back down. And we go and lay back down on our bed, and that heater shut off. It was enough time and for us to get up, go in there, see what's going on. The heater was still going. It was loud. And as we was in the kitchen, the heater turned off. So it got quiet in the house again. And that's when we went to lay back down. We was like, oh, you know, we were spooked and everything, but it was maybe 1 a.m, so we were so tired. We just wanted to go to sleep. So I'm like, oh, well. Went in the other room, shut the door, and turned the lights off. We went back to bed. And I was laying there, and I was almost going to sleep again, and that heater kicked back on again. And it got really loud in there again. And I was really laying there, and that air started blowing. After about a minute or so, that heater warming up, the air started blowing. And my head was right next to that vent on the floor. And I was really laying there, and that air was blowing on my face like that. And I started hearing people talking. And I got really quiet. I started thinking, you know, maybe it's my heart beating, you know, maybe it's so quiet, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I started trying to think of things why I was hearing people talking, trying to justify it. And I was like, no, there's nobody in here. There's nobody in here at all. Just me and my wife. And you can hear, there must have been, like, when that heater kicked on and that heat started blowing out, there was probably, it sounded like at least 7 to 10 people in that kitchen partying. They were all having fun. They were like people talking, like girls and guys. You can hear them all having fun in there, but you couldn't make out what they were saying. They were muffled, but you can tell that there were voices in there, and they would laugh. They would all talk and have, like, they were partying. And I turned over and I shook my wife and said, hey, do you hear this? Do you hear what's going on in there? And she, like, got quiet, and she heard it too, and she said, well, what the heck's that about? So I got up and again, and I was scared. There's like, that box just got kicked across the room, and I was scared to walk in there. But then when I get scared, the scaredness only lasts for so long, then I start getting mad because I don't know, I just get angry when I get scared, and I start getting mad. So that's when I just busted in there. I wanted to see what the heck was in there, so I busted into the living room and into the kitchen and all that, and then nobody there. All the boxes feel the same way. Nobody partying. It was just quiet in there. All the lights were off. It was like nobody around. And me and my wife were sitting there looking at each other like, what the heck?
This was the first night you guys moved in there or slept there?
The first goddamn night. First dang night. Then all the other times, I mean, we stayed there for, it must have been at least until that spring, about half a year or so we stayed there. So we stayed there through the winter. And Dad wanted to come back in there around spring. So, and I think that's when Grandpa was staying with us too. Grandpa was starting to decline, he was getting really old and stuff. And he was staying with us.
Yeah.
And we was taking care of him and stuff. And my dad wanted to get back in there. Like, okay. And we ended up moving back out to Heartbeat that time. But in that 6 months we stayed in there, holy cow, did we get bothered in there. We had one time we was all sitting there, me and my wife, and she had some of her family there. And we were all sitting there, we was watching, I forget, I think it was Lion King or something. It was some kid movie we put on for my daughter, and she was just sitting there watching it. We was all in the living room, we was all just bullshitting and just talking. And one of that bathroom door that's across from the living room there, it was open, but the light was off in there. And one of my wife's cousins was sitting on the couch that was directly across from the door, from that bathroom door. Mm-hmm. And we were just sitting there talking. We were just all bullshit. And I forget what we were talking about, just telling stories. And next thing you know, a roll of toilet paper come flying out of that bathroom and hit her on the head. It hit her on the head, and we all stopped because I think one of Tracy's boy cousins was right in the middle of a story when that happened. And we all just froze and was like, whoa, what the heck was that? And, like, I thought somebody was in that bathroom messing with us. I thought maybe a kid or something was in that, hiding in the bathtub or something. So I went running in there and I ripped that curtain open. Shit, nobody in there. Nobody at all. And her cousin was sitting there. She's like, where did that come from? I said, it came from right here. It was sitting right here. Dang, man. So something threw that toilet paper at her when she was sitting there, not expecting it. That was crazy that night. And on that same night when that toilet paper come out, we went back to bed. That was probably about a month or two after we moved in when that stuff started happening. Because there was a time there when we didn't get bothered, and but about a month or two after we moved in, we ended up switching rooms to that southeast room. Because Dad's room was just, I don't know, we kept hearing those people partying. Every time during the nighttime when that thing would kick on, I would hear those people talking in there. And it just became normal after a while, Shoots, you heard it dang near every night. So it just didn't even bother me anymore. So, but she wanted to get out of that room. She was thinking maybe it was the room. So we moved to that other room, put our bed and stuff in the other room. And that same night when that tissue came flying out at her cousin, everybody went home. We was shutting down shop, closing all the doors, locking everything down, making sure everybody was safe, and we was gonna hit the sack. And my baby, my youngest one, she was only maybe a few months old, about 3-4 months old at that time, and she was sleeping in the back of the bed. Like, we had a bed that was against the wall, and she was sleeping against the wall so she wouldn't roll off and fall off the bed or anything. So we put her against the wall. My wife slept in the middle and I slept on the outside of the bed, and we went to bed that night, and I was almost dozing off. My daughter, she fell asleep and my wife fell asleep, I was almost dozing off. And then my wife, like, elbowed me. And she's like, quit. And I woke up, I opened my eyes and I looked at her, and it was just pure dark in that room. You couldn't see nothing. I was like looking around. I was like, maybe she's just dreaming. Maybe she's in a good dream, or I don't know. I didn't really think nothing of it. So I almost started dozing back off again. Then she kicked me. And she kicked me on my leg, and she's like, Jesus, I told you, quit. And I like stopped, and I sat up in that bed, and I looked at her, and I was like, quit doing what? What are you talking about? She said, quit tickling my feet.
Ooh.
And when she said that, all my hairs on my back, everything just stood up, man. I was like, oh. I told her, I'm not tickling your feet. I didn't touch your feet at all. And man, she jumped right up. And once she jumped up, once I said, I'm not tickling your feet, I haven't touched your feet, my daughter woke up just in a bellowing cry, just all of a sudden, just, and she was just bellowing, and we had to settle her down and all that. But we ended up leaving. That spook ended up spooking us out of there that night. That was one of the few nights we left because it spooked us out of there. Didn't want to stick around and deal with it, so we ended up calling my in-laws. My in-laws, like, they're pretty understanding about that stuff. They're spiritual and all that, and so my mother-in-law jumped in her rig, and she came all the way to Browning from Heartbeat to come pick us up. And we told her, hey, yeah, we'll just meet you down at the, because we didn't want to stay there. Shit, we were scared. I was like, hey, we'll just meet you down at P&M. We have a little gas station, maybe about a block and a half away from us. Like, we'll just go down there and we'll wait. And you guys can pick us up from there. And I said, okay. And in that house, all the doors are broke. Well, that front door, that shed door is broke, so the doorknob doesn't lock. Huh? Mm-hmm. You had to put my dad had this great big, I think it was like a treated, pressurized 2x8, great big old board. He would sit up against that door from the inside. I mean, shoot, you would need a goddamn hit it with the truck in order for that thing to break. But he would put that against the door, and that's how we would lock it. We'd lock it from the inside, then we'd go around and lock all the the back door and lock all the windows. And then we'd go to my dad's room, that northeast room, and I'd crawl out that window, and I'd leave this one window open, so when we came back in the next day, that's how I'd get into the house. And we was spooked. We got everybody ready, put my daughter in there, let my wife and them all outside, and I locked that door, and they were outside waiting for me. And I went through that house, shut all the lights off, made sure all the windows were locked, and shut everything down. TV was off, everything was locked. Walked into Dad's room, and I was scared right then and there, because I was the last light I had to turn off, was that light, and I had to run to that window and still jump out it. Mm-hmm. And I was scared because I already, all that shit that was already happening. I sat there and I looked at that window and I took a deep breath, and I was like, all right, fuck, I got this. So I shut the light off and I bolted towards that window and I started making my way out it. And once I crawled out it, it's kind of a drop. There was a tire down there that I leaned up against that house so I can step on that tire and step to the ground. Mm-hmm. I made it out to that tire, and just as I stepped on that tire, I reached up, and my head was already looking down. I was looking down to see where I was going to step, but I reached up to grab that window, and I just going to pull it closed. You just pull it down and it'll close it. Mm-hmm. And my head was already looking to the left, and I was looking down to where I was going to step. At the same time, I was pulling that window closed. And when I stepped down, and as I was sliding that window closed, on my right side, my right peripheral vision, when that window closed, mm-hmm. Shit, there was somebody looking at me out that window. I seen a face. Like he was looked at. It was a dude. It was some guy. I don't know who it was, but he looked like a white guy. And I just seen him at the corner of my eye. I seen his eyes, and I seen his hair, and I seen his white complexion. And I got scared, and I didn't want to look at him. I just kept going. I just shut that window, and I just kept walking. And I got out to the road. My wife and them were waiting on the north side of the house. And they're like, is everything good? I was like, yeah, it's all good. And we're just going to start walking away. My wife turned around and she said, "Hey, that window's open." And fuck,
Oh,
I turned around and that fucking window was open in that room we were staying in, that southeast room. And none of them were open to begin with. And it was just dark in there, man. Like no lights were on. I shut everything off, but that window was wide open. She was like, "You're gonna have to go close that window," and I was so scared, man. It was dark out. And I was like, "Man, I just seen that face." Oh man, I was so scared, and I was just like, "Man, all right." So I ran down there, and I just shut it as quick as I could, and I basically closed my eyes when I did it. I didn't want to see that dude again. And I ran up there. I just closed it, shut my eyes, and I turned around, and I took off, and we ended up going out to Heartbeat that night and staying. But yeah, that was a spooky night, man.
yeah, that house. Everybody that's ever stayed there's got a story about it. You know,
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about it before on the podcast. It's one of them
yeah.
houses.
I think it's just all the history in that house. You know, just all there's a lot of history there.
A lot of
Uh,
drinking. You know, it's
a lot
alcohol.
of alcohol. Yeah, a lot of alcohol.
Yeah, so.
That's mainly what was really in that house is alcohol. It really wasn't no drug life or nothing like that in there. Just
Mhm.
really alcohol. And yeah, those alcohol spirits can get pretty strong in that house. Holy cow.
Well, they'll show up too, man.
Yeah.
They're just waiting for a party to come join you.
Yep, that's what they want. They want you to keep drinking.
Mhm.
I remember this other time we was it was snowing out. Me, my wife, and my baby, my youngest or my oldest. She was my youngest then. Um, she was probably about not even that, about 5, 6 months old or so. Still this little baby, and we had my little sister-in-law in there staying with us. Uh, my wife's youngest sister. She was staying with us in there, and she was just young, and she was learning how to write. Like she found a pen somewhere in that house, and just an S's drawn all over the place because she was learning how to write her name. So she's S all over the place. On windowsills, on doors, cupboards, shoot, you name it, she wrote an S on it. And we sit there and we took the pen away from her. Tracy got mad at her for writing on that windowsill and everything. And he got in trouble and all right, time for bed now. And so we had another bed made back in Dad's room, back in that northeast room,
Mhm.
and me and his bedroom was the southeast room. And we told her little sister, we told her, time for bed. You gotta go lay down now. So we told her to go lay down on that bed in Dad's room. She said, okay. She goes in there and she lays down, and me and Tracy were just in the kitchen. We're sitting at the table and we're playing crib. Sitting there drinking coffee and playing crib. Oh, it's about 11 o'clock at night. Drinking coffee, playing crib. And really sitting there. Next thing, her little sister come walking back into the kitchen. He was like, "Hey, thought we told you to go into bed. What's going on?" And she's rubbing her eyes like she just woke up. And she said, I was in bed. She said, but there's an old lady in there that told me to get off of her bed. She said that I'm messing it up.
Mhm.
And I said, there's an old lady in there. I was like, there's nobody in there. And I walked in there, turned the light on. There's nobody in there. And I said, well, sure, I let her come lay by us in our bed. And I said, just come lay by us and we'll just all sleep in this bedroom together. So we all slept on the same bed. But it was weird that some old lady told her that. And we started thinking about it, me and my wife and Grandma Florence. Our grandma, she was in the military back in the day. She was in the army, I believe, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, she was in the army. And I started thinking, I wonder if that's who she's seen. Because I remember when I was young, she was really strict about being clean and like being organized, and like she would fold her towels a certain way. Her her hand towels a certain way. They'd all be set just perfect in that little closet
Mm-hmm.
in my grandma's house. And so I started thinking, I wonder if she's seen Grandma Florence. I wonder if that's who kicked her out of that room.
Could be, she didn't like her beds messed with either. You couldn't go in there and raise hell. She's really a meticulous old lady. She really liked her order. She wasn't mean. She's the nicest woman ever.
Mm-hmm.
She was just really squared away.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could have been her too, but and she wasn't mean. She was strict. When it come to certain things, she wouldn't put up with it. So I wonder about that one too. I wonder if that was Grandma. Kind of sounds like her.
Mm-hmm. That's what crossed my mind when Sarah told me that she's seen that old lady back there. So that was the first time I've ever heard of an old lady being in that house.
Yeah, I
Usually
never.
it's always shadow figures or that hat man guy.
Yeah. Ooh, that guy's rough.
It's kind of scary. They another story about that house. I remember one time I went to bed. We were gonna go grocery shopping that next morning. We just got our big food stamps, huh?
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna head down to Great Falls and he's gonna go shop up. And I'm the driver, so I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. It was already 10, 11 o'clock, and my wife and her brother was sitting in the kitchen just playing crib or doing something. I don't know. They're just killing time. And I told them I'm gonna go to bed. I'm getting tired, so we wake up early and we'll head to Great Falls. And, all right, so I went in that room, and that southeast room, and I went and laid down and I crashed out. Next thing I know, my wife come walking back in there. And she said, hey, Jim, wake up. Like something weird just happened. I was like, oh, what's that? What's going on? She said, man, we was sitting in that kitchen. She said, and we thought it was you, but we knew you went to bed. But somebody opened that south door. Somebody opened that south outside door and walked in and shut the door, and they had boots on, like either cowboy boots or construction boots, but they were heavy boots, and they were stomping the snow off, like on the floor. You can hear them. They were stomping, and then they start walking towards that kitchen, and then it just stopped. And them were sitting at the table waiting to see who was going to walk around the corner, but nobody walked around the corner. So she got up and she walked in there, and no snow on the floor, door was still locked, everything was all still how it should be. And she come running in there and she told me about it. Holy cow, that's pretty spooky. So my brother-in-law, he was gonna sleep in the living room that night, but he got scared because that happened. He got scared and he's like, no, I'm not gonna sleep in here tonight. Like, all right, well, just grab these couch cushions and we'll make you a bed on the floor. We all slept in that same room. My little brother-in-law, he slept on the floor. And that next morning, nothing else happened that night, but that next morning we woke up. It was probably 6, 7 o'clock. I rolled him out. Like, sure, let's get going. We got a long day, shopping, traveling, all that. Let's get on the road. We didn't even bother cleaning up. We just left our bed the way it was. All those couch cushions, everything was still there. We was gonna clean it up when we came back,
Mm-hmm.
So we just left it. Everybody got ready. We all showered up, got ready, and we headed down. Spent the whole day down there. Did everything, shopped up. Had to do our McDonald's stop. We got all that done. Went back home. Shoots, when we opened that door, you know how I had to crawl through that window. That's how we had to get back in that house. And I crawled back through that window, opened all the house back up for everybody to come in, and we went back into our room, into that southeast bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was clean.
Oh.
that bed was made, like our bed, me and Tracy's bed was clean, like it was made up. The couch cushions were put away, the blankets were folded. And what was weird was what the way our bed was made was it was folded like a military fold almost, like you know how you fold that thing back and your pillows go up
Yeah.
on top.
Uh-huh.
I never make my bed like that. I just throw a blanket over it and make sure the blanket's nice and flat. I call it good. And whoever cleaned that place, they cleaned it really good. And they put everything away. And I was sitting there and my wife was asking me, like, I wonder if your dad or somebody like that came in. And, like, there's no way they could have. Well, they could have, but, Dad would never climb through that window.
Mm-hmm.
He never would. He would always wait outside, or he would call me, or he would call neighbors, or, a couple, the younger boys up the road. He would call them to crawl in there for him. He would never crawl in there. And, but yeah, I told her, I don't think so. And so I called him. Called up to Auntie's house and asked him, hey, did any of you guys stop by here? Like, no, I've been here all day. We've been watching football all day. Like, is Grandpa up there with you? Yeah, Grandpa was there. He was sitting there watching football with them. Oh, shit. So I told him what happened, and Dad started laughing. Yeah. Yeah. That was another spooky story about that place. It's weird how just cleaned up. I wasn't really too spooked about it. I was kind of more or less grateful. There's one less thing I got to do.
Were those cushions put back on the couch too?
Yeah, if they were put back on the couch. There was even a blanket on that couch.
Oh, geez, that sounds like Grandma too.
Yeah, it was all made up, nice and neat.
Yeah, 'cause that's how she made her beds, just like that. Yeah. I don't know why this is something else. I'm just thinking, but I thought I'd share. Grandpa Dad was telling me, he says, yeah, your grandpa, you just take his coat off anywhere. Just kind of throw it anywhere. Then Grandma, she was clean like that, so she'd put it away, hang it up somewhere in a closet, put it away. Went to go look for his coat. Now where'd she hide my coat? I always think about that when I think of Grandma being really, really cleaning up and putting stuff away like that, organized. And where'd she hide my coat?
Yep, sounds like Grandpa. He's always saying stuff like that. At one time I had a lighter. He's the only one that owned a blue lighter. There's my lighter. I just got this one, but here, you could have it. Have to give it to him.
I remember a time, I don't know, I'm thinking about kind of chronological order. This had to have been before we went to Oregon, or was it after? I don't know, but I don't know if you remember, but I think what happened was you guys got chased by a Bigfoot out in Star School. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, this was way before I went to Oregon. Actually, not way before, but maybe about a year before I went to Oregon. So I had been in like 3rd grade when that happened. I was out in Star School.
Mm-hmm. So we'll leave that as a little cliffhanger. In the next episode with my brother, he talks about a lot of his Bigfoot experiences that he's had, along with UFO type sightings and missing time and all this. So he's got some good ones coming on the next episode on the show. So once again, as always, I thank you all for being here. I really appreciate the support, and I appreciate you. So no matter where you're at, whatever you're doing, I hope you have a good night, good morning, or good afternoon. And until next time.